Okay, so a few months ago, I was sitting on my couch, half watching TV, half scrolling through my bank statement for no real reason, just doing that thing where you scroll and don't even absorb the numbers. And then one line stopped me. A subscription. $14 a month. For an app I genuinely could not remember downloading. And I sat there for a second, kind of laughing at myself, kind of annoyed, thinking, how long has this been happening? Turns out, 8 months. 8 months of $14 for something I never once opened. Now, $112 isn't going to ruin anyone's life. That's not the point. The point is the feeling that came right after. That specific little sting of, wait, how did I let that happen? I'm usually pretty on top of this stuff. If you've felt that before, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you're being honest with yourself right now, you're probably already thinking about which one of your subscriptions is the guilty one. So, that's what today is about. Not a shame session. Not me wagging my finger at your coffee order. I want to walk through 13 things people spend money on that. If you really sit with them, don't hold up. And the interesting part isn't even the spending. It's that when you bring these up to people, they get defensive, almost instantly, like you insulted them personally. And that reaction, that little flinch, tells you everything. Because it means this was never really about money in the first place. Stick with me. I promise this isn't going to feel like a lecture. Here's what I think most people get wrong about this whole topic. They treat it like a math problem. Like, if you just laid out the numbers clearly enough in a nice little chart, people would go, oh, I see. And stop doing the thing. Cancel the subscription. Skip the latte. Say no to the extended warranty. But if it were that simple, this pattern wouldn't show up in basically every income bracket in America. From people barely scraping by, to people making great money, and still somehow living paycheck to paycheck. Because nobody actually believes, deep down, that a lottery ticket is a smart investment. Nobody genuinely thinks the $60 protection plan on a blender is a mathematically sound decision. People know, and they do it anyway. Which tells you, the real explanation isn't sitting in a spreadsheet. It's sitting somewhere messier, in comfort, in identity, in the quiet fear of feeling foolish or behind. A lot of these purchases aren't purchases at all. Not really. They're more like little insurance policies against a feeling nobody wants to sit with. And that changes everything about how you fix it. Because you can't spreadsheet your way out of an emotion. You have to actually see it first. All right, let's get into the list. And look, you're probably going to recognize yourself in a few of these. I know I did. Writing this. Number 1, extended warranties. You're at checkout. You just bought something. A laptop, a TV, whatever. And the cashier asks the question, would you like to add protection for an extra $60? And there's this split second where your brain does this weird little calculation. What if it breaks? What if I say no, and then regret it later? So you say yes. Not because you ran the numbers, but because you're trying to avoid the future feeling of being mad at yourself. Here's the part that almost nobody says out loud, though. These warranty programs are wildly profitable for retailers. Some estimates put the margins on them well over 50%, precisely because most things don't break in that window. And when they do, the manufacturer's own warranty usually already covers it. You weren't buying protection. You were buying relief from a regret that was never likely to happen anyway. Number 2, grocery brand loyalty. This one sneaks past people because it doesn't feel wasteful. It feels like taste, like a preference. But go stand in any aisle right now and look at the name brand oats. next to the store brand oats, same oats, sometimes literally made in the same factory. I'm not exaggerating. And people pay 30–40% more. Because the label feels more trustworthy. That trust wasn't earned through quality. It was built through decades of advertising. I get why it's comforting. There's something nice about a familiar box in a chaotic grocery store, but that comfort has a price tag, and over a year, it adds up to real money. Number 3. Gym memberships nobody uses. Oof. This one's personal for a lot of people, myself included at certain points. You sign up in January, full of hope, and by March, the gym is basically a building you drive past. Surveys have found that a huge chunk of members, sometimes over half, barely use their membership at all. And yet, people keep paying. Month after month, because canceling feels like admitting something, like giving up on a version of yourself you were hoping to become. So you keep paying for a feeling instead of an actual service. Number 4. Subscription creep. Which, hi. Remember my little story from the top. Streaming services, apps, cloud storage. A meal kit you tried exactly once. None of these feel expensive on their own. $9 here, $14 there. But subscriptions are quite literally designed to be forgettable. That's the business model. Studies on this have found people routinely guess their monthly subscription total at less than half of what it actually is. That gap between what you think you're paying and what you're actually paying, that's where this waste lives, quietly, in the background. Number 5. Lottery tickets. I want to be gentle here, because for a lot of people, this isn't really about winning. It's about buying 5 minutes of daydreaming. But the odds are almost impossible to wrap your head around. We're talking odds sometimes compared to getting struck by lightning more than once. And Americans still spend tens of billions of dollars a year on tickets. A disproportionate amount of it coming from lower-income households. It's not that people are foolish. It's that hope got packaged into a $2 piece of paper. The real trouble starts when the ticket becomes a stand-in for an actual plan. Number 6. Buy now, pay later. On stuff you honestly didn't need. This one's newer. This one's very right now. Splitting a $60 purchase into 4 little payments. Feels almost clever, doesn't it? Like you outsmarted the price tag. But regulators have flagged that a lot of users end up juggling several of these plans at once and lose track of what's actually due. Which makes sense, because that's exactly why this got so popular. It removes the moment where your brain registers, oh, that's a real cost. Instead, it feels like 4 small nothings instead of 1 real something. Number 7. Financing a car. Mostly for the way it looks, sitting in your driveway. Car payments in America have crept up so much that the average new vehicle payment now regularly tops $700 a month. And more people are stretching loans out to 6, even 7 years, just to make the number feel survivable. Nobody does this because their commute suddenly got harder. They do it because that car is visible to neighbors, coworkers, family at Thanksgiving. It's a rolling status symbol, and status symbols might be the most expensive thing a person can buy. Because you're not paying for the object. You're paying for how you imagine people will see you. Number 8. Only ever paying the credit card minimum. This one deserves a slower moment. Because it doesn't feel dramatic at all. In the moment, it actually feels responsible. You paid something, right? But credit card interest rates have been sitting at historically high levels, often north of 20%. And minimum payments are calculated, quite deliberately, to keep you in debt, for as long as mathematically possible, while still technically fulfilling your obligation. A modest balance, paid only at the minimum, can take years to clear and can end up costing more in interest than the original purchase. That's not a moral failing on anyone's part. That's a system built to look manageable, while it quietly works against you. Number 9. Bottled water. Bought daily. Out of habit. Small one. Easy to overlook. But someone buying bottled water every day, instead of just using a reusable bottle, can spend several $100s a year on something that, in most American cities, is already tested, safe, and basically free from the tap. This one isn't really about thirst. It's about convenience and a strange amount of trust we place in packaging. Number 10. The daily specialty coffee. And look, I am not telling you to give up your coffee order. That's genuinely not what this is about. There's a real difference between enjoying a coffee and it becoming this thing you do without even thinking. A daily habit like that can quietly run past $2,000 a year, and most people, when asked to guess their own number, guess way lower than the truth. That's the accumulation problem, right there, in its purest form. Nothing about any single cup feels reckless. It's the 1,000 cups you don't add up in your head. Number 11. High-fee investment products, sold through a really warm, friendly pitch. Slightly heavier one. Bear with me. A lot of well-meaning people get steered into products, certain managed funds, certain investment insurance combos that carry high ongoing fees, sometimes over 1% a year, compared to simple low-cost alternatives, charging a fraction of that. Over decades, that fee gap compounds into a genuinely enormous difference in retirement outcomes. People defend these because a nice person sat across from them and made them feel taken care of, and that feeling is worth something. It's just not worth what it often ends up costing. Number 12. Timeshares. Few things on this list generate as much defensiveness as this one. People buy them mid-vacation. Relaxed, hopeful, imagining future family trips. Then the annual fees keep climbing. The flexibility turns out to be way more limited than promised. And reselling one is famously difficult. Some owners report they can't even give theirs away for free. It becomes a financial obligation. That outlives the emotion that created it in the first place. Number 13. The oversized house, with rooms nobody actually uses. This is the quiet one. Nobody wants to poke at this one too hard because it's tied up in this very American idea of arriving, of making it. But a bigger house means a bigger mortgage, bigger taxes, more to heat, more to furnish, and often a guest room. That gets used 4 nights a year, and a formal dining room that hosts 2 dinners annually. People don't buy that extra square footage because they need it. They buy it because empty space has quietly become a symbol of having made it, even while it sits there, costing money every single month, just existing. So there they are. 13 small, very human, honestly forgivable decisions. And if you noticed a thread running underneath all of them, you're picking up on something real, because there is one. None of these 13 things were actually purchased with money. Not really. They were purchased with a feeling: fear of regret, fear of looking poor, fear of missing out, a need for comfort, or status, or hope, or just the sense that you've arrived somewhere. And once you see that thread clearly, something shifts in how you look at your own spending. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" And you start asking, "What am I actually trying to feel right now? And is this purchase really the only way to get there?" That question, right there, is the turning point. Because once you separate the object from the emotion sitting behind it, you get some power back. You realize the gym membership was never really about fitness. It was about the person you were hoping to become, and you can chase that version of yourself without a monthly fee attached. You realize the bigger house was never really about the extra bedroom. It was about proving something, mostly to yourself, if we're honest. And once you can see that clearly, you're not depriving yourself of anything. You're just no longer being quietly steered by a feeling you didn't even realize was driving the car. This, I think, is where money and psychology actually meet. Financial peace doesn't come from flawless discipline. It comes from noticing, from catching that split second right before you swipe the card, or say yes to the warranty, or sign for the 72-month loan, and asking yourself one honest question: is this coming from clarity, or is it coming from a feeling I'm trying to outrun? So, what do you actually do with all this? Not in some extreme, deprive yourself of every joy kind of way, because that never lasts. And honestly, that's not even the goal here. Pick one or two of these 13, just one or two, not all of them. That's a good way to burn out in a week and abandon the whole thing. Pick the ones that made you wince a little while I was talking, because you already know which ones those are. Maybe it's the subscriptions. Go check your statement this week. Actually look at it, line by line, and cancel whatever's no longer earning its place. Maybe it's the minimum payments, and the shift is as small as paying $20 extra a month, because that tiny amount changes the math more than most people expect. If it's the little daily habits, the coffee, the bottled water, you don't have to cut them out entirely. Just make them a choice again, instead of a reflex. There's a real difference between someone who buys a coffee because they genuinely want one right now, and someone whose hand just goes through the motion without asking. The spending looks identical. From the outside, the relationship with it isn't at all. And if it's something bigger, a car payment stretching you thin, a house that costs more than the peace of mind it's supposed to give you, that's not something you fix in an afternoon. And I'm not going to pretend it is, but you can start asking better questions before the next big one. Not, what will people think? Just, what do I actually need here? And what feeling? Am I really hoping this buys me? And is there a calmer, cheaper way to get that same feeling? Because underneath all 13 examples, that's really what this whole video has been about. Money mistakes rarely come from not knowing better. They come from unexamined emotion, running on autopilot. And the fix isn't punishing yourself into some rigid, joyless budget. It's just getting a little more honest with yourself in the small, quiet moments, one purchase at a time. If you saw yourself in a few of these, that doesn't make you bad with money. Genuinely, it makes you a person living inside a system that has gotten extremely good at making unnecessary spending feel necessary, even feel smart. Every generation deals with some version of this. The packaging changes. The apps get smoother. The checkout buttons get easier to press without thinking. But underneath it, the psychology hasn't really changed at all. You don't need to overhaul your whole life this week. Honestly, please don't try. Just start noticing. That's the entire shift. Awareness, not perfection. Because the people who end up genuinely at peace with money aren't the ones who never mess up. They're the ones who slowly, gently, get a little more honest with themselves over time. So next time you're at a checkout counter, Or you see a subscription renewal notice pop up. Or you're sitting in a dealership, being handed a pen for a 72-month loan. Just pause. 1 second. Not to punish yourself, just to ask what you're actually buying. You'll be surprised, more often than not, how the real answer isn't the thing sitting in front of you at all. And honestly, that quiet little moment of noticing, that's worth more than all 13 things on this list combined. Thanks for watching. This is Sophia, and make sure to subscribe.